So there you have it. Mama Madeleine, she comes from Angola, and of course, she knows her heritage and of course her backgrounds in different foods. Now, here it is, she has already explained that she cooks the majority of the time at home cooking African dishes. Now, this is where the tasty part comes in. Ah, okay. As you can see, Mama Madeleine has explained to us that her preferred platter to cook is wangila. And it's a very type of a leafy product that grows from the ground. And of course, in order to prepare it, you have to let it to set out and dry in the sun. Now, the way in which she has explained it is the way in which that she does, or that she has cooked this particular dish back home in Africa. And it is of course drying to its texture before you gather these seeds and these leaves and you put it in an African pounding pot. Now, this pounding pot, you don't have to add anything into it. You just pound away, and itself, the wangila seeds and the wangila leaves will release its own oil. And in that time, you can add maybe, for instance, maybe a particular type of herb or onion, a vegetable that can strengthen the process of the wangila. Now, she did explain that in the midst of whilst that is being pounded by somebody else, you put on your stove hot water to boil. Now, I did ask her, and is that it? There are other things in which you can add to it. But once the wangila has, of course, released its own oil, you can then add it into the boiling pot of hot water and begin to add your herbs, your spices. And she particularly mentioned mostly salt is the best way in order to eat the wangila, and very, very, very small crayfishes that we can find in African shops or African cuisines to help benefit from this dish. And she said it's best eaten before with plantain, fufu, and of course kwanga, or even sometimes rice. Normal, okay. Okay.
Izande ngwana wangila.
Wangila.
Sili ale obimisi yango. Ale ochena mai wana zana moto zoto. Wana siko wangila. To chiki kande ngwana na mai. Obimisi yango ochika kada mai. O iza kutoka na moto. Toke yango moke kufongwa.
Okay.
Kubalola na yote tango kutoka ale tango fungwa minyoso ale yango moka kamala moka ale bando kangama. Ibando kangama. Isiko yo omzilutu. So
I had the opportunity to ask Mama Madeleine if she teaches her children how to cook, and she said from time to time. Now, wangila here in Europe, it can be bought in shop stores already. It has been pounded and it's already packaged. But of course, it doesn't have the same weight and authenticity that we would like to see in our African lineage. Now, she had specifically mentioned that her grandchildren prefer to eat the foods in which they are accustomed to here in Europe, specifically in England, the likes of KFC, McDonald's. But when it comes to eating African foods, I wonder what she would say. Okay.
Machine oyo nika kawangila. Izaka suspenza iloko ya tamula ite. Uzwangu kaka, sombi kaka, ale.
So there you have it. Mama Madeleine has explained to us she prefers to eat African lineaged foods because that's what she's accustomed to. Now, mixing the kind of cuisines that she has preference of cooking and the cuisines that she is exposed to here in Europe, it may cause an upset stomach because her body and the way that she has been raised is not what she is used to. And she prefers to eat what she knows, how she knows to cook it, and of course what's good for her body. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Olamba me balia kangote.
Olamba me balia kangote.
Balia kangote. Kaka oba ba mesani nangwa.
Ka oba ngo ba mesani. Okay. Ebongo ba restaurant. Est-ce que yo po kenda ba restaurant?
Te.
Why? Yo kenda te po na nini? Ba restaurant azakel dele.
Akenda kate. Mo ba restaurant wana okende ate na kenda kate.
Oko mekana mo ba plat chinois, ma plat indien, o sangsongo na mo pondu ndunda. Non, olingango te.
Nini?
Ba restaurant po kene ba restaurant.
Ba restaurant. No, na ko kena nga mukolo moko me ezala lokola ko mesana te.
Okay. Ka ba occasion spéciale.
Okay. Nga na lobi boye. Restaurant na ko kena na nga. Me ya mikolo nyonso tuté.
Okay.
Donc il faut kaka lokola to ana ndako, faut to lamba kaka to soma biloko ya mboka, to lambi. Oyo to koli na yango. Tipe te koyeba mikolo moye kaka biloko kaka ya mboka.
Ya mboka.
Moye ya kusala ba misu mistura wana nalobi portugais
Okay.
moye ya kosangisa tosangisa tolia ya mboka tolia lisusu ya awa ekopesa biso pasi na
estomac. Okay.
nga namoni gu nango eza différent
ndenge nini gu nango eza différent ndenge nini
na oyo ya Congo ya Congo to Luanda ndenge toloba awa po bato na bato ozomona babiloko mosusu ezokuta Nigeria banzete to bambumango eza différent sikoyo mpo na nga conseil nga na kopesa na bajeune fille eza na bajeune garçon babotami na mboka baye nde koluka awa baye koluka peut-être kuna pai bango bazali bauti na bandako bamama na bango mosusu alingaki ne kaka abokami na madesu donc alingi kaka gu ya madesu soko ale madesu te donc moyen te eloko akoli nango yango wana mosusu komona akoli ne kaka na wangi na nde toloba awa mosusu komona akoli ne kaka na mbika mosusu komona akoli ne kaka bapundu babiloko kaka ya mboka wana tangu ya ye awa ye na awa na mboka mundele aye kokutana na mwasi sikoyo mwasi wana biloko oyo ya ye byango te epesaka mobulu na kati na ndako uzomona ayebi kolamba te donc ifo bakeno lela kaka na barestaurant.
Now she did say when it comes to preparing it on the stove, you place it in a pot, you add peanut butter, you can add tomatoes, you can add your spices, your preferred spices, and of course you can add onions and spring onion to give it the flavor and the juices that is needed. Once you have put all those things together, you can add your water and you leave it to simmer. Now, I did ask her before, are there other things in which you can add into this dish to make it very well seasoned and very well likable, because I know I eat it. And she said, yes, you can add dry fish, you can add ngolo, you can add ngulu, you can add any other preference as you wish to make it the right dish.
Tango yake na libala awuzane na mikakatano te azana problem te uzomona mesoko zo like sa teke basala kabo ikozala pasi mingi so biso toza ba africain tout les bords ba lebi mwasi mobali aza mukonzi ya ndako uzomona balobi na Bible balobi ko eza ko sungana meza ya bikolonyoso tute tango yoza na pasi mwasi na mobali akusunga yo meza la lokola habitude te uzomona ngusiko
ya merci kombo la ngai mami me mobali nanga kombo na esamba babenga nga mami samba poso bika mami apamba toza ba mami mo ebele batu vraiment bako yeba te yango so bika mami samba boye bamba moko Église à la gloire Manchester na fanda na Bolton lokola ngai naza congolais na botama congolais yango na préféraka mingi liboso biloko nga na koli nango yango na oya biso pende ya ba congolais nga na préféraka.
As you can see, Mama Samba has just explained to us that her preferred cuisine to eat in and of course to dive in is the African cuisine. Not only because, yes, she is African herself, no, but it's because it's something that she has grown up with all her life, and that is what she knows and that is what she is best at. And she gave a great example by explaining if a child is born here in Europe, for instance, in England, what they would know as normal or as a normality to them is growing up with eating fries, burgers, chips, everything that is European attached to that particular culture. But what she has shared with us is that the Congolese cuisine is her.
Abotami en Angleterre, toloba anglais ye moko mundelo abotami awa. Biloko ya koli nango tokolo ba chips, ba biloko ya mike
hamburger,
yes. Soko lobi opesa ye semoule. Ako liete po ayebi yango te. po oya koli nango yango wana o
Her preferred cuisine is African. It's particularly Congolese. But the way in which Mama Samba has just explained it, oh my goodness. From the way of learning how to become a young girl in particular when you're very young at the age of 8 or maybe 10, your parents or your mother already teaches you how to pick up a broom, how to sweep your area, how to make sure your home is already forming into a place that you can live in. Now, that word forming is so particular because later on I'll be asking her what it means to form a young child, in particular a girl, how to learn how to cook and the ways in which of cooking. Now, Mama Samba has also shared with us the ways, of course, her mother taught her. Now, she taught her in a way of her mum was sat by the side and she was directing her daughter, Mama Samba of course, how to pick up things, how to put measurements, the kind of ingredients to use, and putting it in the pot and preparing a dish befitting for the family. Now, as you can see, her mother taught her a particular way. Now, she has taken that tradition, that way of cooking as a mother, and she has also passed it on to her children. She sits and watches and directs her children how to cook things. Not only watching from a distance, but they come and they show her, Mom, is this the right measurement? Is this the right food? Is this the right thing? Is this the good or ripe particular onion that I should use? And she directs them. Now, those words there for my viewers at home, direction, forming, and teaching are so important when it comes to cooking here with us.
Fandi yozwa kikalungu cha la moto zwa mafuta ana so ngocha okochebele chamuke
Mama Samba is really putting in place traditions, normalities and customs that she wants her children, boys and girls, to carry through with them when they leave the home. And she gave a great example of a particular dish that her daughters enjoy to make, and it is of course oxtail. We as Africans, specifically Congolese, we call it nikila, but the right term in English is oxtail. Now, an oxtail is of course a flavoursome type of meat and a type of bone, and we enjoy cooking it very often. Now, her daughters enjoy cooking that on their own because they know how to cook it. Of course, they call their mom to make sure that they get the approval that they may take it out from the fridge or the freezer, and they can, of course, cook it in their liking. Now, it is something that I believe as young women, when we are at home with our mothers, with our fathers, or with our aunties, our grandmothers, that we should learn how to cook dishes that we enjoy eating from the fruits and the hands of the labor of our particular mothers.
Yes, bandunda wana ba madesu eza ba vitamine, ba pondu, oyo babenga nini? Mbinzo. Ba mbinzo wana.
Ndenga na yoka mbinzo mama lengisa nzoto.
Ba mbinzo. Ba mayebo.
Mayebo.
Ba madesu biso to benga ngombwengi. Donc ba small beans boy.
Yes.
It's a small vraiment. Yeah. Wana pe eza pe na vitamine. Fumbwa.
Me, I like fumbwa.
Wana pende ya biso bilona biso kwa mboka nde penza yango wana. Fumbwa.
As you can see, I am mesmerized. I am mesmerized by the techniques that Mama Samba uses when, of course, creating a very, very prominent dish known in our Congolese culture as fumbwa. A very peanutty-based sauce with tomatoes, of course, and the leaves and the straws. Now, of course, fumbwa, as she mentioned before, when cooking at home back in Africa, it is part of a stalk. And when that stalk grows the leaves that we call as fumbwa, when they are cut, there are little bits and balls in it that we can, of course, tend to find within our mixture of leaves that we need to wash thoroughly. Now, Mama Samba has shared with us that when she prepares this, it's a particular process that she does. She takes the day in advance to wash her fumbwa, leave it in the water. So of course, when she takes it up out of the water, there are the bits, the unwanted specimens that she does not wanted remaining in the water, and she throws that water out. Now then she takes the wet and already consumed, let's say, leaves of fumbwa, and she lets it out to dry, because she is not a fan of a fumbwa that is very watery. She prefers a fumbwa that is well dried, and when she cooks it with the peanut sauce, the onions, the garlic, and of course the tomato, she likes the texture and of course the way in which it sits on the plate. Now she has shared with us that her household enjoy eating such a dish like fumbwa with fish. Dried fish, salted fish, and of course accompanied by the all classic heavy, lovely thing that we love to eat, fufu, or what may others know as
matungulu. Ai po fumbwa balamba ngo biloko nyonso mbisa ukauka otie kaka wana. Ezaka lokwa ndeto lamba pundu biloko nyonso tie fumbwa pe ndenge moko. Na tie biloko nyonso tu wana. I had
asked Mama Samba the kind of restrictions or constraints that she must have experienced while cooking traditional foods, and she gave some great experiences and some good examples. The first one being the way in which, for example, when cooking a dish like wangila, you have that particular leaf and the process of churning that particular leaf, making it into a powder, and of course making sure it is crushed the way you want it. There's a particular item that we use. Now here in England, we call it a pestle and mortar, where you can grind things into a powder. Now, of course, in Africa, we have the bigger version. Let's call it the industrial version, that we pound between our legs and we crush it in the best way. Now here, we don't have such of an item because one, we can't transport it from Africa, Congo, and bring it here in the UK, because the way in which the process of a food is manufactured back home, we maintain the nutrients, we maintain the flavor, and we maintain texture. Now she gave another example of something that we are very well known to, which is pundu. The way in which it is made back at home is similar liking. You break your pundu leaves, you bring it back home, you of course break it apart, you make it into smaller leaves, and then you can start preparing it. Now that's the example she gave back in Congo. But here in the UK, we have the privilege of going to superstores, opening the freezer, taking the pundu out of the freezer in a bag with our own flag plastered on the packaging, and therefore we call it pundu that we can cook at home. But when you start boiling it and you see certain things that are just not supposed to be attached to that packaging, you start to question yourself. Is this the real thing? Is this the real texture? And because she's a well-experienced mother who knows the difference between artificial foods, or maybe perhaps foods that have been tampered with or been plastered with so much preservatives, and the organic cassava leaf that she knows back home and she can pound into a great good pundu. Now that is what I call an expert cook. Now wouldn't you want to be an expert cook? The same way as Mama Samba. Knowing what foods you are consuming and putting inside your body.
Zop makanisi na yo chawana po yo ke loko nini o mama alingi aloba.
Ngana wuti na Bolton na za koko na lingaka pe kolamba mingi biloko na lingaka kolamba, en tout cas pondo madesu pe na sepela penza kolamba pondo madesu pe na lambaka.
So then, for my viewers at home, here we have Mama Mai, and she has explained to us that some of the favorite dishes in her household that she likes to cook for her family are pundu, pundu madesu, mbisa mai, and other things as well. Now, amongst those particular dishes, her children in particular enjoy eating pundu madesu, which of course is a mixture of pundu and beans put together. A very popular dish that we have back home in Congo. Now, in this particular mixture, this platter that she cooks for her family, she includes a number of ingredients, especially the spices such as ginger and garlic to make it really flavorsome.
Mafuta ya oil na tie. Soki pe ya mbila ezali na zupe ya mbila na tie. Na bandi ko balola ti ekobela nde na silisi ko lamba yango. Punda madesu neti nga natiaka ai, natiaka ndembi, natiaka matungulu, na poiron pe natiaka.
Well, there you have it. Mama has really shared with us something so important when it comes to teaching the younger generation how to carry through and prepare dishes such as pundu amadesu. She does teach her young children how to, of course, prepare such dishes. And I want to ask her, why is it so important to show them how to prepare young dishes?
Tumbi makayabu pe soki ezali, pembeni, poisson pe pembeni, soki pe liboke, na po na sepelaka pe mingi, kosala maboke.
So Mama has shared with us, of course, the benefits of cooking and consuming African dishes, the way in which we cook them. Yes, they may be different. She gave a very good example here with pundu and buteku. The way in which it is prepared back in Africa is completely different as to what we get here in Europe, specifically in the UK. The farms are the places in which, of course, these particular leaves are harvested. They may be, of course, infested or sprayed with preservatives, alternative chemicals that completely changes the nature and the fortune of that particular elementary item. So, for instance, in some cases, like bundu and buteku is green. They may, of course, shower the leaves where they are farmed with a preservative to keep the item green before it is transported and processed into refrigerators of superstores and shops. As our mother has just shared with us some great advice in understanding that there are some many disparity or differences when it comes to cooking foods that we, of course, have, or she has cooked back home in Africa compared to how we have it here in Europe. So for instance, when of course back at home, living with your family members, whether you are in the city or in the village, a particular leaf like bundu, as an example, you can easily break off the palms, break off the tree or the bush, and the same day...
Kombo nanga mama Sandrine Mafolo, naza awa na Manchester, na vandaka awa, naza mama ya bana, naza koko ya bana, naza kokololo pe ya bana. Yes.
Which ones?
Nandaku tolinga min kolamba pondu, tolingaka kolamba.
For my viewers back at home, the reason why I am so impressed is because Mama Sandrine has explained to me that she prefers to cook African cuisine dishes because that's her background, that's her heritage. But the reason why she does that is because it's part of who she is. Now, she has shared with me that the foods that she enjoys cooking, such as bundu, madesu, bika, mayebo, just to name a few of them. And her daughters at home, and I believe her sons also, do help around the kitchen.
Normal. Na pondu tochaka aubergine, tochaka courgette, na pondu tochaka matungulu, na pondu na biso tochaka bandembi, na pondu na biso tochaka solo, na ba obaliaka solo.
Mama Sandrine has explained that her most preferred dish to cook at home is pundu. And we know it here as cassava leaves here in Europe. Now pundu, you can of course buy it in superstores and in markets. But the way in which she has explained that she cooks it is with aubergines, courgettes, leeks, spring onion, and onion as well. And she also includes in that particular mixture oil, not particularly palm oil, because she has explained that over the past 12 years, her body has become intolerant to the taste and the smell of palm oil. Now, it may be for particular reasons, health reasons, or maybe she just doesn't like it anymore.
Tango zolambango, ozana biloko te, onacha biloko bele, mais awa en Europe, déjà test goût ya pondu ezobunga tangu tozo somba ngo na ba shop. Alors pona kolamba ngo ezoluka penza o fabriquer belé po yoka na goût ya pondu oyo. Mais ya biso na Congo ezaki kaka ndengo buki tuti otie matungulu na yo otie ndembi na yo pondu ebeli eza kitoko bole.
Well, there you have it. Mama Sandrine has explained that a major limitation that she has here in the UK when it comes to preparing pondu is, of course, it's not organic. The leaf itself, cassava leaf, is not something that you can just go into your back garden, as she said, in her home. You can just take it off the trees because it's a very small tree or a small bush. Take it off the leaves, and of course you can pound it and cut it just as you please. It's organic and it's fresh. Here in the UK, we don't have that. We tend to buy it already pre-packaged, in freezers, ready to be sold, and somewhat ready to be cooked. But Mama Sandrine has just said to us that when it comes to preparing bundu, you have to add a multitude of other ingredients: courgettes, cucumbers, white aubergine, onions, spring onion, to give it the flavor that it warrants, to give it the flavor and the taste that it needs, which is what makes the bundu that you cook here in the UK different to the way you cook it back at home. Back at home, all you need is the leaf, cucumber, and some onion or maybe spring onion, and that's it. But here, you have to add a multitude of things.
Ozanga identité. Ok, place moko oyebi ni biloko ya mboka na yo, oyebi ni kolamba ngo, ozokoka même pas kolia ngo, eza vraiment problème. Alors, conseil na opesa na ba jeune, yeba ko garder identité na yo. Yekola kolamba biloko ya ba africain pour na santé na yo, pour na santé ya bana na yo, pour na kovandisa identité na yo ya ba grande place outi na kati ya bana na yo, pe bana na yo ba komema ngo na bana o bango ba kobota ti ekokende de génération en génération.
Ngai komo na ngai mama Aimée Itela po papa komo na ye Itela yango naza mama Aimée Itela.
So our mother here has said that her name is Mama Amy Itela, and she comes from a very prominent tribe in Congo called the Bakongo. And in their tribe, they consume a lot of vegetables, green vegetables like cassava leaves, spinach, bitekuteku, which I do not know the English name for, apart from bitekuteku. Very health-based diet.
Unao netinga so na somi mabomu pandeni so na ulama na vandisa una base na chango mai lobi na tonde na ulama te wana nyonso ekiti na nyonso ekiti na bwaki mai na zisu mai mususu sikoyo na bandi ko
As you can see, Amy has just shared with us a very prominent particular type of dish tribe. What about encouraging your children foods? And I gave her an example because I don't like the smell of tripe, especially when it has a very pungent smell me to cook. But she has explained to clean that particular type of meat and very strategic methods, washing it with and lemon to of course remove something here that has a very good value. We cook, they carry such value for our potential future families because they might enjoy that particular dish, but yet we are prohibiting them eating those kind of foods.
Citron ndeko bomba siko solo wana bino bomba citron solo wana nyonso eza sauté citron esili bongo tie na nzungu ozo de piste na yo tie ozo poireau na yo tie soko oza na ndembi to poireau tie otie matungulu otie feuille otie mwa jimbo na yo mwa nini okoyoka su solo wana te pe lero bana kolia yango solo wana eza nango sauté.
Okay, ngai naza kombo nanga mamani Cheta. Ngai nazali Congolaise.
So as you can see, our mother here, her name is Mama Annie, and she comes from Congo, and she comes from a particular area called Kivu, and she has declared that she is a Mswahili and what?
Murega.
Murega, na yuba Murega te.
Bazamanyana ifobozala na plamoko yeko.
As our mother has explained here, I asked her the question, what is it specifically in her African cuisine that she enjoys preparing? And she has declared and said to us that amongst her family, because there are many within her family, they prefer to eat foods that are benefiting in greens. Foods such as pondu, bitekuteku, not so much of like water fishes or meats, because that's more of what they classed as an item or a dish that was beneficiary for those who had money.
Susu bango nyonso balingaka exemple lokola madesu mwana nyonso alingaka kolia madesu.
As you can see, Mama Annie has shared with us that within her eating habit, she mixes both African platters and also platters that we have from other countries and cultures. Not just, of course, African dishes, but mixing together with other dishes that she goes to with the restaurants with her children and her family. Now, in the household, she has explained that 6 days out of the 7 that we have, most of the time it's only African foods that she prepares at home. And as a treat or maybe as a break from the African cuisine, she may go out to restaurants and indulge in a platter or a cuisine of their choice. Now, I did ask her if that was a choice that she makes herself or if her children makes, but she said it's mostly both of them. Maybe someday she might decide to go out somewhere, and maybe sometimes it might be the children who decide that they want to go and eat elsewhere.
Faso ebele balambela kango. Selo ba tribi na biso na kati ya Congo. Soki mama ya muluba azolamba pondu, ozokanisa bitumba moko eza kosalama na ndako.
Wow.
C'est-à-dire pondu etelemi. Mais soki muswahili alambeli yo pondu, pondu moko eza caresse.
When it comes to preferred dishes in the household, our mother has shared with us that there are 2 major dishes that her family enjoy eating, that they can already smell the aromas from the moment they enter the walls of their home. And those 2 dishes are pondu and madesu. For my viewers there back at home, pondu is what we call cassava leaves that have been crushed and broken apart and mixed with other ingredients with water and some palm oil and some onions and seasoning to create like a green vegetable stew. And for those of you who do not know what madesu is, it's basically a type of bean. It can either be red kidney beans or normal white beans that they put into a stew and create something of good nurture. Now, within those particular foods, the one that they do particularly enjoy is pondu, and that they love to eat accompanied with some fried mackerel, which is a fried fish, some oxtail, which is what we call nikila, and also maybe some smoked or barbecued chicken, which is what we call soso ya kotumba. Siko pondu na
d'olive. Yeah, po wiloana eza d'abord kitoko pona santé. Ba mususu bazalaka balambi na mafuta ya mbila esala ba.
Mother has shared with us that her preferred dish to cook is obviously pondu with a specialty. She has given us a very clear division between what it's like as a person who's from the Muswahili tribe to cook pondu, and a comparison to what a person from the tribe of I forgot the tribe. Bamuluba, there we go. The Muluba tribe, how they cook particularly pondu. She said it's a bit of a battle within their tribe. But here in the tribe that we have, the Muswahilis, we cook with a lot of tender, a lot of caressedness. And you can sense that this particular dish has been made with love and virtue. Now, she has also shared with us that the key ingredients that she puts within her particular pondu dish are things that, of course, that are all vegetables and that are all green-based vegetables to help with your health. And the trick that she has mentioned is that with her household, her children prefer to eat pondu with a type of fish within inside it that is, of course, mackerel.
Très bien. Awa okoki koloba kolekisa te eloko ya olia te me eloko ya muke muke komba fruit.
Our mother has shared with us that there are many surprises and joy-fulfilled moments when she enters the kitchen and she prepares something, not the same kind of foods that we have every day, but within like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or maybe a month's time, she may surprise them with a massive feast, a barbecuing feast of goat meat, chicken, something that they will know that it has come as a surprise to not even hinder them, but to surprise them and give them that joy of food and the way, of course.
Bien, par la grâce de Dieu, le Seigneur nous garde.
Amen.
Je bénis l'Éternel pour ce programme, parce que toutes choses concourent au bien de ceux qui aiment Dieu. Nous avons contribué à cette émission.
As you can see, Mama Martha has just explained to us that when it comes to her household diet or what she particularly enjoys eating, it's the majority of the time African foods. And she has explained that the older that she is getting is because she wants to maintain a healthy equilibrium, a healthy and balanced diet. Yes, in our foods we have, of course, meats, goats, chicken, poultry, you name it. But the majority of the time, it's the kind of foods that she wants to help preserve and maintain a good, healthy diet.
pour garder les enfants pour leur futur. C'est très important dans les foyers. Cause, au contraire, elle aime plus ce qui est africain.
Oh, wow.
Parce que même
Oh,
quand
gosh,
il y a
wow.
les choses-
So as you can see, our mother has just shared with us that her daughter does have the encouragement and the enthusiasm to, of course, learn how to cook African dishes. She even calls up her mum to be asking if she can send her off a particular type of fish. It's a very, very small fish that we call ndakala, and she really enjoys cooking those type of foods. Whereas her first son, he has a similar approach. He's enthusiastic about it. But her middle child is not yet so enthusiastic because he just doesn't enjoy eating. Is it for food that he doesn't like to eat, Mama?
Yeah, she never eats.
Oh, wow. So our mother has shared with us that the majority of the time that where she buys her particular ingredients or foods is in local supermarkets that tailor and cater to, of course, foreign dishes and cuisines. And if she cannot find them in a regular supermarket or store, she goes to, of course,
Let me try. Ça aide et puis c'est la joie de la famille.
Voilà, merci beaucoup. Comme on a Mama Mimi, na uti na Congo, na tribu ya Bayombi. Voilà, merci beaucoup. Toza na babiloko ebele, babiloko ebele, mais o penza o na koki ko pesa o esunga pe batu même na santé na biso o eza healthy. Voilà, tozo mona toza na ba plantain, toza na ba yam, mbala o tobenga yam, makokolo, voilà. Et puis toza na feuille de manioc pondu.
Thank you. We have...
Yes, na bandi déjà kolakisa bango ba yebi pe na lakisa bango pe à part kolakisa ba liaka ngo pe po eza biloko ya mboka na biso. Yes, ba ya mango surtout pendant madesu, tant tozwaka pondo apamba to sanction na madesu. Ba linga ngo makasi donc soki olambi yango ba liango par exemple ata lelo 2 jours au moins ba lekisa ta semaine ba osengo ngo lisu bango moko.
Like the most famous or most common dishes will be plantain, yam, or pondu, as we know as
toyebi d'abord pondu. Pondu eza légume ou eza na fer. Eza na fer ebele do eza na protéine makasi. Pondu et puis ma dessous.
For example, the pondu that we were mentioning, there's a lot of protein and a lot of iron and vitamins within the pondu. Also, beans as well, the way we cook it, it has pretty much the same benefits as well, iron, vitamin and protein. So this is very good contribution to health.
Mais mana madesu eza na protéine. Donc yango wana o eza malamu pona ngo. Voilà, merci beaucoup. Tant que tozomona pondu déjà eza légume. Légumes déjà is recommandé pour la diet.
So when it comes to preparation, my recipe is very simple. Obviously you have the beans and the madesu. I mean the beans and the pondu. I tend to put a lot of the spring onion, things like garlic, oil and onions in general. All these things are deemed to be quite healthy for our health and they are part of the veggie.
Mais biloko wana mibale eza na fatité. Kolamba pondu na madesu eza simple. Eloko ka oyo kocha na kati eza oignon, matro to bengi matungulu, oche oignon na yo. Oignon déjà eza malamu, ezokende pe ka na cadre ba salade, ba légumes, oche pe ail na yo. Ail pe eza bien na santé na biso. Et puis ozu huile na oka momuke, oche et c'est bon oche pe ndembi, spring onion eza pe bien. Donc ba bloko anaka ba chaka yango nde do ezo jouer sur ce rôle makasi eza na protéine eza na ba vitamine na kati parce que yango nde ba recommander biso na diet.
So as for preparation, you would boil your beans because the pondu you don't need to boil it at all. This is how I make mine. You don't boil the pondu but you boil the beans. As soon as it's almost ready, you will then add the pondu with all the veggies, the onions, the garlic and all of that. And don't add water, don't stir it or anything like that. Put it in a wok and leave it there to cook.
Pour gagner temps, oza na pondu na yo, oza na madesu na yo. Obandi ko tokisa madesu na yo. Soko monika madesu na yo essaye lokola elemba peut-être essaye lokola échanger moi couleur nango. Ozumba mo pondu na yo eza ya mobesu. Ocheka na likolo wana osangisi yango. Ko balusango te.
Okay.
Ko balusango te ozuka madesu na yo. Pour madesu no déjà so bandai ko tokisa liboso parce que madesu ndeza makasi
We tend to find pretty much everything we need to make our dishes here, but back home most of these ingredients that we use are quite fresh. They're coming from, you know, they've been picked up from the ground, maybe on the day of you're making of the preparation. Whereas here many times they are in forms of frozen or sometimes they've already been chopped. So that's pretty much the difference. But yeah, to get like fresh food here as well, they tend to be much more pricier, which can sometimes be a barrier.
Voilà, okoki ezodépendre na quantité oyo ya pondu ozolamba. Donc toza bamama oyeba kaka mais eloko ya 2 litres te ya 1 litre pe te ntango soki ozwala luka mwa demi litre otie na kati kotia mai ebele te daye kutu soki otie pondu so otie pondu kotia mai te parce que madesi wana oyo otiaki eza déjà na mai donc ka mai wana ya madesi wana komeka kutu kobakisa mai te soki obakisi mai elongoli même kutu bavaleur nango nyonso. Il y a des fois eza na moko pembeni na biso ezali ya baafricain. Il y a un morceau qui pose ça par exemple, on a tant de l'eau qu'on nous a ngoté, mais tant de retrouver on a restaurant, et ça la paie moi bien et zong si au sous en Afrique, na mboka na yo okay, au liar pena ndenge pena to liar pena na Congo. Yes, naza kutunga mo naza kutuna ba camarades nanga baza ba africain mais baza ba congolais te, ba nigérien, mais ba senga ngango. Mama Mimi, can you give us a pondo? Don't bayebi pondo. Nanjana nga bayebi. Can you cook for us pondo and madeso? Don't bayebi. Basepela ape pondo.
Especially for our health, to make sure and encourage our children to eat ready home meals basically instead of ready-made meals. Because for example, they can get fish and chips, but the way it's cooked, you know, it's not very in the healthy environment, or the ingredients that they use are not always like the best. So encouraging our children definitely to eat homemade food, obviously it's also advantageous and good for them.
Likolo o to benga ba bio eza likolo au moins tam soza na capacité ya kozwa ngote au moins okesombika o déjà si ba mélanger net par exemple au moins oke na supermarché awa okuti ba oignon ba matungulu ba kati o pa na biso eza moi pasi po somba ya bongo o lukosomba penda o pendeza ya frais ou bien tomate. Eza pa na biso rare au monde okesa la tomate ya ba boîte tout mais au biso pena osomba penda o ya frais donc tantôt ya mo ba difficulté wana ezala parce que awa pe bio ezali mais parfois eza moins cher au moins pas si tam suppose ngo keka bi na somba ka o ya simple ça c'est le cas na zwango na opesa bango conseil toye kolisa bana biso kolia biloko tozolamba parce que biloko biso moko tozolamba eza plus eza na ba protéines eza healthy par rapport moi nazokende kolia kaka chicken chips na nzela to fish and chips eza vraiment malamu te parce que tantôt on a place kalingameli tantôt na huile au mona yo na ndako tamsusu fish osala ngo na huile te o chango ka na four na oven et beli nango lambi eza plus healthy par rapport au mona okele so donc eza important pour na garder ba santé vie na biso pe et que de moulai donc faut to lia bien alors pour lia bien il faut vraiment to conseiller bana to école sa bana ba maman ko lia biloko to lambi na ndako parce que bana biso si tout sera zaka na pocket money on est ici la kali banda ya chicken and chips donc eza vraiment pas si pour na biso mais ba maman tout ça la effort ya olaksa bana ko lia na ndako eza important.
Good evening. Welcome to Bolton Community Development Partnership. So the first question is, how much of your diet is related to the African lineage from back home and versus the origins over here? This is going to be a three-way conversation, so I'll be talking in English, our sister here will be talking in Lingala, and she will talk in Lingala as well.
Oui, na Alexa Bango, ngana botaka ba garçon, bien.
And because say in Africa you have the spices and the ingredients everywhere you go, now that you come here, was it hard for you to find the spices and the ingredients to make the pondu here? Is it different to when you was in Congo?
La cuisine européenne, d'abord cuisine anglaise, na c'est pas la montée, c'est la vérité. Dans beaucoup plus que Abisso.
She just said that in brief. There is a bit of a difference, of course, but she didn't really find it that hard to be able to make pondu here. It is simpler to make it back home because there's not a lot of ingredients that's needed in order to make the dish. Whereas here, she tends to put like aubergine or eggplant leek and stuff like that just to make it. But it wasn't hard to find ingredients to be able to produce the same dish here.
Okay. And this is the last question. Is there a general interest among the individuals at home to learn about African dishes?
Suka zanga ba poireau, poivron, matungulu, na échalote. Échalote et matungulu rouge, na kanso ye bien. Ya na linga mingi na pondu po esa la pondu moi bien parce que ba pondu tant eyaka awa eza surgelé et c'est umeli. Siko kuna en Afrique eza nango boza bobuki yango eza fraîche. Tant wana tant bozo tia ba biloko wana pondu eza nango kitoko makasi.
Nangiza Mama Nadine Chibangu. Merci beaucoup.
My guest has said her choice of food within the African lineage, she likes to eat vegetable and fish. That's her personal choice. But when it comes to overall, when she goes to restaurants with her family or with her friends, she likes to try other dishes. It could be Indian, it could be Chinese, but her diet, 80% of her diet is with the African food, and the remaining of 20% is when she go to restaurants, she eat the food, or sometime at home with her children, she tries different dishes. So we're going to move on to our second question. Our second question is, do you teach your children how to make African dishes? So, est-ce que
fish. Alors, wana eza pona babiloko na biso ya Afrique.
Yes.
Neti na biloko lokwa ya awa bon okoki juste ka kopika ba lem soko ko lia pe biloko eza pe ya awa.
Yes.
So
Mama Nadine, she's from Bangala tribe, one of the tribe in Congo. So within her tribe, they like to start teaching the children from a young age. Like for example, at the age of 12, a child must be taught how to cook. So the easiest thing she can start teaching her children at home to cook is pondu, is cassava leaf, is the leaves from the cassava. In Congo, we don't throw anything. We eat the potato and we also eat the leaf on top. So that's where the cassava leaves come from, which we call pondu in our mother tongue. Is fish. But a lot of children are not to learning how to number one is the smell. Number two, they feel like you torturing, killing a fish when you give them a fish to cook. But it's not a child with an obligation. Ask them to see if they show any interest to cook. Let's move to question number 4. How well do your children appreciate?
Assez intéressé, oui, c'est
yes. Made out of cassava. Cassava potato where the cassava leaves come. We don't just stop with the cassava. Something else that looks like fufu. Other nationality, they might call it's not fufu. It looks like we call it cassava dough. In our we call it kwanga. It's well known kwanga. Children, they like to eat makayabu with fish. Yeah. Other children will also love taba, which is so all that mixture beauty of the Congolese dish. I'll go back in recap. A lot of children, which is cassava leaves, some madesu, which is beans. They'll eat it with kwanga.
Biloko na ngasho na nini? Loso, makemba.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama Nadine.